noon.
All right, Jules, I'll let you
Yay.
take over.
All right, sounds good. Welcome, everybody, to today's webinar. We are very excited about today's topic, how to get your agents focused on building listing inventory. My name is Julie, and I'll be your moderator today. Before we get started, we do have a little bit of housekeeping. As some of you may know, and some of you may be experiencing, there's a huge winter storm up in the Northeast, and unfortunately, Darryl over there is smack in the middle of it. So if there's a power outage, we do have a backup plan. Darryl will call in from his cell phone, and I will take over the slide deck. I do ask everybody bears with us if Mother Nature throws a tantrum today. If at any time during the webinar you want to connect, or after the webinar you want to connect with Darryl and our team, you can find us online at all social media platforms with the handle @DarrylSpeaks. A little background on Darryl. He started his first training program in 1993. That's him. He's just a baby right there in the middle. Since then, he's developed the Power Program, which helps agents go from 15 transactions to 35 in a year. He is the author of 3 books, all published by McGraw-Hill. The first one there, How to Become a Power Agent in Real Estate, is actually the #1 sold book on Amazon to real estate agents. Darryl was also named as one of the top 5 coaches in real estate by Riz Media. It's a big honor. We're very excited. Now, if you can't really make out those other folks, don't worry. They're not on today's call. Darryl is also the very proud recipient of this CSP designation from the National Association of Speakers. This prestigious honor is only given to the top 2% of professional speakers worldwide. It's quite. In addition to speaking engagements for companies and organizations around the globe, Darryl is still in the streets, as we call it. What I mean by that is he still hosts live agent events throughout the country. As you can see in this picture here, taken just this January in Long Island, we had more than 350 agents in attendance. Here, in the next slide, you'll see he's actually calling FSBOs live from the stage. And that's important for you to know because on today's call, we are going to be talking about prospecting. Darryl teaches agents to get 4 out of 5 FSBO appointments they call. Darryl does have an online coaching program, which he may talk about later in the webinar, the Power Program. It's very exciting and help agents grow their business. Commitment of today's webinar is the promises that we made on everything that we advertised that he'll share today, how to get your agents focused and working on building their listing inventory, where your agents can find sellers and who want to list this month, how to get your agents excited about their listing inventory and love real estate again, fire your agents versus managing them.
Are you still there with me, Julie?
I am.
Okay, I lost you.
Next, we do have a couple questions that are pretty common. One, will you be coming to our area live? And you can go to these 2 sites to learn more about that. And the second question we always get is this going to be a sales pitch? And it's 100% not a sales pitch. So that begs the question, why would we do it, right? And our goal here is we want to build a closer relationship with brokers so that we can help you help your agents. To get the most from today's call, we would really like you to focus on the audio, not the visuals. Text your questions using the Q&A panel there on your control panel, and we will take as many questions as we're able. And lastly, let me just say, I've known Darryl for more than 25 years. He brings humor and heart and how-tos all together for brokers and agents, and I am delighted to be the one to welcome you all and to introduce him today. And on that note, Darryl, take it away.
All right, thank you, Julie. Good morning, everybody, or it's good afternoon for some people in some parts of the country. Yeah, I'm very excited to do this, and I just want to highlight, this is not going to be a sales pitch. Matter of fact, I'm going to start with usually what people would do at the end of a seminar. So I'm going to give you the website where there's certain things that I'm going to talk about on this webinar. And so we've got some free gifts for you. Again, I'm very happy that we're doing this where they're not selling something for you to buy. Again, as Julie said, we want to build a relationship with you, help your agents improve their production. So you'll see on the screen, in case anybody's calling in, topbrokerdownloads.com. And what we're going to give you when you go there is an ebook on the 12 strategies on getting new listings, which I'm actually going to do a webinar for your agents next week on this topic, but there's an actual ebook on it that goes through what the 12 are and explains, and there's some dialogue. There's also a power prospecting plan. It's a chart. We'll talk about that too later momentarily. And so this is something you'll be able to print out and help you to manage your agents. There's also the listing inventory chart, another powerful concept that you can either use for your whole office, but I encourage that each agent has their own to track their own inventory. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And then there's the dot board. This is not really related to this topic, but the reason why I want to give it to you is because I've had many brokers who have implemented this into their office. They've actually said to me, Darryl, after implementing the dot board, we actually saw a 20% increase in production year over year. So even though that's not directly related to this topic, I just want to give you that gift because it's pretty cool. Now, something else is that I want to make you aware of. We're going to be sending you these newsletters called Management Moments. And the first one that goes out to you, so pay attention to that. It'll probably go out next week. There's a distinction as to why we call it Management Moments. It's based on Carl Yarlson's book, Moments of Truth, and I think it's going to really help you managing your company and creating a culture. So we're going to be sending those to you as a gift too. That'll be loaded with tips and techniques. So we just want to give a lot away to you. Now, this website here, realestateagentwebinar.com. So gang, this webinar is going to be next week. There's the domain for that, and I'm going to go through for free for your agents the 12 best ways to increase their listing inventory. So I'm going to delve deep into those 12 things with your agents. I'm going to cover some of that with you now, so you have a sense of what we're going to cover, but also you can, everything that I give you today is designed for you to share in office meetings, to share the language in your office. So here's the first thing that I want to cover with you. So we're going to start taking notes now if you're not, and I highly recommend that you do. Write down whatever is important to you. Explain to your agents the difference between listing inventory versus getting listings. So there is this distinction that I've been teaching now for several years that seemed, when I share this with agents in a live seminar, they actually have, it's almost like they get religion. Because a lot of agents, they think of getting listings, thinking as a listing agent, but I tell them, if you've been in real estate for like more than 10 seconds, you probably have heard listings are the name of the game. But I say to them, I'm going to teach it to you in a different way than you've ever heard before, and you're going to look at your business differently because of it. So let me share with you what I share in those seminars, and you'll be able to bring this to your agents. I like you to start not talking about getting listings, but building inventory. So agents probably know of, and even yourself, that there's probably, neighbors that you have, friends or family, they seem to have plenty of time to go on vacations. They have more toys in the driveway, are spending more family time. So you've got these people that are maybe making less money than an agent is making, but they seem to have more balance in their life. Now, the question is, what do those people have that the typical agent doesn't have? And of course, people always joke, say, well, they have debt and all this other stuff. But the truth is, what these people have that we don't have in the real estate industry, which is hard, is cash flow. Meaning that those people that have the toys in the driveway and have more family time and all that stuff, they probably have a paycheck. They're working for some kind of company, 9 to 5. And even if you were that person, that neighbor, that friend, if you were to take all of those checks in the course of 12 months and add it up, even if that money was less than what an agent makes, so in other words, the agent's making more, the reason why they're able to have more balance in their life is because they've got that constant money coming in. And now as a broker manager, you know just how important the distinction is of cash flow. Every business needs to have constant money coming in. With real estate agents, they have surges. You know, they have 1 month, hey, things are going great. They're generating a lot of revenue. And then the next month, they're suicidal. And part of what the problem is the agents will start spending that money before it actually closes. They don't manage their money properly. They have a surge. They start shopping. They take their foot off the gas. And what we need to have agents understand is how to create cash flow. Is building a business based on inventory. So for example, let's say, and this is what I ask the agents, let's say you are going to sell something else. For example, cars. What do you need in order to sell cars? You need cars. That's your inventory. If you don't have cars, you've got an empty parking lot. If you're selling furniture, you need furniture. That's your inventory. If you're selling jewelry, if that's your jewelry, you need to have jewelry. That's your inventory. So you can look at just about any business, and that business has inventory. If they have no inventory, they have a problem. But let's use the shoe store as the example. That's the one I usually use in my seminars. There are two ways. If, let's say, any one of us on this call wanted to get out of real estate and sell shoes for a living, there's one of two ways we could do that. We can go get a store and we get a rack and the shoes, and we promote the shoe store to have buyers come to the store to buy our shoes, right? The other business model is if we want to sell shoes, we can find a buyer who wants to buy a pair of shoes, stick them in the car, and then drive them from shoe store to shoe store to shoe store. Now, help me out. Obviously, which is better? Putting the buyer in the car, driving them to the store, or having the store with the shoes? Obviously, it's having the store with the shoes. In our business, in real estate, our shoes, our inventories, our listings. And if a company has no listings, you have an empty shoe store. As a matter of fact, every time an agent takes a buyer out and brings them to a house with another company, they're literally bringing them to another agent's shoe store, working for that agent with no health benefits. So what we need to do, you know, as a broker, your success in your office is directly related to how much inventory you have. What we need to do is convey that distinction to our individual agents. That and here's how I'm going to suggest that you can bring this to your agents. I haven't taught this in years, but for brokers, this works. If, let's say, you've got McDonald's, the franchise. And for those of you who can see me on screen, I eat a lot of McDonald's. Anyway, if we were going to open up, and we wanted to open up a McDonald's franchise, you got McDonald's, the corporation. And the corporation provides, you know, the supplies to buy, the inventory actually, right? And, you know, some advertising systems, etc. But then you have the individual store. Now, the individual store is owned by a franchisee, and the job of the franchisee is to hire and promote and sell stuff, sell the inventory. In your company, you are almost like McDonald's. As a broker manager, you're the big umbrella, but every individual agent should look at themselves as their own franchisee within the umbrella of your company. They need to think more like a business person. So therefore, every agent needs to have inventory in their store. So this is what we want to convey. Now, here's something that I give agents, and this is going to be part of your download. And I appreciate Terry said, I love free gifts. Yes, Terry, this is one of the gifts I'm giving you to download. Thank you for that. And by the way, I'm going to periodically try and look at the questions. If any of you want to comment while I'm doing the webinar, I'll try and look over and see that. Anyway, gang, this chart, the listing inventory chart, here's the concept of how it works. Is let's say that an agent starts with 6 listings in the month of January, and if they had 4 listings sell, you'll see on the screen what just happened to the inventory of their business. Now, here's the powerful part about this. If an agent had 6 listings in their inventory and they had 4 sell in January, what we know they usually do is they start celebrating, they take their foot off the gas, they say, hey, this is great. They start spending the money before they actually close it. What this chart does is it takes the agent out of that state of gleemania, a word that I made up. Oh, I'm so excited. Because they'll look at this and say, all right, this is great that I got 4 things in a contract, but I'm going to be in a heap of trouble if I don't restock my shelves. So the inventory chart helps the agent run their business like a business. It has them focus more on when there's these number listings sell, that's good, but they got to get back to work to build in their inventory. Now, here's what's interesting. Let's say the next month, they want to go from 2 to, what does that chart show? 5, right? So obviously they're going to get, if they got 3 listings in that month of February, so they built that inventory, let's say the next month. Here's my point. If this is what an agent's inventory chart looks like, gang, this is what their cash flow is going to look like. Now, this is an important distinction. We're going back to cash flow. What this chart does, and what our students love about this, is that this chart is telling them what their cash flow is going to look like in the future. The reason why I say in the future, because whatever this chart is doing, there's a delay. Because if you had 4 listings go into contract, in a month or 2 months, there will be a surge of cash from the closings. But if the agent didn't restock the shelves during that 30-day cycle, after the surge, their cash goes down. So this helps the agent stay ahead of the curve, ahead of the ball. That's the listing inventory chart. And I'm going to say one more thing, and we're going to move on to this, on to the next part. Let me just drink some water. You'll see at the top of that inventory chart, it says focus on building listing inventory by 1 a month. Let me just explain that really quick. I tell agents that if they, let's say they start at 0 listings, and if in the next 30 days, they focus, they push themselves, can they all get 1 listing in 30 days? And the answer is always yes, or I can do 1 listing in 30 days. Great, let's do it again. So now in month 2, we focus, we shake the trees, In month 2, we have how many listings? 2. All right, let's do it again. We go into month 3, but hang on a second. When we go into month 3, one of those 2 listings sold. So now in month 3, they have to get 1 more listing, plus they've got to replenish the one that sold off. So in the 3rd month, they're not going to get just 1 listing, they're getting 2. The concept here, gang, is not getting listings, but building inventory by 1 a month. Now, if you take an agent who has 0 listings and they focus on building their inventory by 1 a month, at the end of 12 months, they should have 12 active pairs of shoes on the shelves. But they were also replenishing and restocking during the 12 months. So hypothetically, this agent starting with 0 listings might have gotten 24. They got 12 active, they had another 12 sell. I don't have to tell you, that would be incredible for your office, for your agent, right? Now, if we do the math, if they got 24 listings total, let's say 20 of them sold before the expiration date. If you took a commission of $5,000, that's $100,000 starting with 0 listings over the course of 12 months. Real estate's a race, not a sprint. We need to help our agents pace themselves. Now, here's the dot board, and let me share this with you. Now, gang, this dot board that I'm showing you is actually an individual dot board that we have for our agents. I'm going to explain to you how to change this for your office, but let me just go through the agent piece. The other thing that I learned when I managed my office on Long Island, we were the #1 listing and selling office our first 6 months that we opened. We were a big listing office, and we were very successful, obviously, and this dot board was one of the key things that helped us. There were a bunch of things, but this is one of them. So here's the concept. The agents usually, they get overwhelmed, like if they have too many lists, if they have a lot of listings, but they have no sales, they're frustrated, or vice versa. So they're always looking at their numbers, and they can stress themselves out like they're never happy. What the dot board does is it gives immediate acknowledgement to the accomplishment. And that's the important part here, because real estate is a cycle. You got to have your head on, and so if an agent doesn't feel like prospecting, they're not going to. So motivation is a big piece. That's why there's people like me doing what I do, because agents need that. As a broker manager, you need to be that leader, that visionary, and inspire your agents. So the dot board works like this. Let's say an agent goes get a listing. This is different than inventory. The inventory chart shows the number of current shoes on the shelves, all right? This here says, all right, this agent, let's say this is my dot board. So I got 1 listing in the month of January. I put a dot up on the board. I'm very excited. I get another one. Boy, this is great. See, the listing didn't sell yet, but I'm acknowledging. I put the dot on the board. I know it sounds silly, but you'll be surprised. Agents get addicted to the dot board. There's another one. I'm just kicking butt. Look at me. And guess what? A buyer bought one of my houses, and then I took out another buyer, sold another BS Realty, Bob Smith's office, sold. Look at my dot board. I'm doing wonderful. Now, here's what happens. Let's say this is now the middle of March. If this is the middle of March, and this is my dot board, do I have a problem? Yes. So what it'll show me, it shows me that, okay, I started off strong and I started to take my foot off the gas. That's the other thing that the dot board does. It helps the agent stay focused. If they start to slip off, they can see their business. A lot of agents, they feel their business, but they don't see their business. If they feel like it's going good, it's going good. If they feel bad, it's a horrible, I had a fight at home, my business isn't good. This puts the facts in their face. Now, what you can do with this as a broker manager, and this is how I did it, instead of it having the months, January through December, those were the names of the agents. And the color of the dot would represent the month. So one month we might have red, and then the second month we might have blue. And then when we go to the third month, we take it down and we start with a new dot board. And that's how I did in my office. Now, one last thing on this. I know some of you might say, well, Darryl, we have something like this in our office. You know, it's a whiteboard. If you don't have exactly what I'm showing you, it doesn't do the same thing. So a whiteboard is not a dot board because there's something about peeling a dot off and sticking it. If you've got the names of the homeowners or addresses or volume, it's too distracting, it's too much. You'll notice all this says is dot board. That's it. Clean, simple. And I attribute a lot to it. And a lot of brokers tell me they love this. Now, the power prospecting plan. Let's go through how to help your agents build their inventory. On this form, what you'll see is a plethora of ideas on how to build listing inventory for your agents. You'll notice on this form, the agent would put their name and do it. So that this would be a weekly chart, if you will. Now you can do this one of two ways. You can actually use this to manage your agents, like have them hand it in or hand in a copy if you want to do that, or just give this as a gift to your agents and let them manage it themselves. I'm going to go through some of these with you pretty quick, but first we're going to talk about the prospecting FSBOs, prospecting FSBOs and expireds. The do not call list, you folks should have your own policy when it comes to this. Whenever I teach the FSBOs and expireds, which is my strength, which, by the way, I'll say this, my batting average is when I call live, when I come into a company and do live training, or if we're holding one of our other events, that I'll call, I take FSBOs from the audience and I call randomly. We pipe the speakers through, we pipe the phone through the speakers. And my batting average, if I speak to 4 FSBOs, I schedule 3 appointments. I think I'm the only real estate speaker that has the chutzpah. That's a New York term, by the way. The chutzpah to actually do that live. But we teach the agents how to do that. And their batting average is usually they'll speak to 4 and they'll schedule 2. Okay. So I have an opinion about the do not call list. And I don't need to get into it with you here now. But whatever I say my opinion is, when I'm speaking to agents, I tell them they must abide by the policy of the office. So you should have one. I'm going to show you something that I show the agents to get them excited about FSBOs and expireds. And by the way, I'm going to talk about other prospecting techniques. I'm just telling you FSBOs and expireds is my personal favorite, and my strength here is why. Let's say in your market there's 50 FSBOs a month. Of those 50, studies show that probably 40 are going to wind up listing with an agent. And if out of those 40, let's say 30 sell, there's probably going to be more. This is a good real estate market, but let's keep the numbers low so people don't think we're blowing smoke and motivating them, that these are low numbers, not high numbers. Of the 30, if you were to say the average commission is $5,000, I know some of you it's less, and some of you on this call more because we have people all over the United States on this call. That if you do the math, that's $150,000 probably in your market every month just from FSBOs. In the course of a year, that's 1.8 million. I always ask agents now, you know, you're not going to get all that business, right? But the question is, what have you done to even try to get a piece of that business? So nobody should be starving in your office. Nobody should be struggling in your office, because there is an abundance of possibilities on how they can help increase their business. Now, if we look at expireds, usually they're more. You know, in a market, as FSBOs grow, so do the expireds. I like expireds. They're like fruit. They get ripe. Now, if we were to take 100 expireds, we can say about 70 of those would list with a new company, and that's different. And you know from experience, again, I'm talking to the leaders on this call, brokers and managers, that we both know that whenever an expired lists with a new company, almost always it's at a lower price because they learned from the first agent that that price doesn't work. So I like expireds in some respects even more. Let's say only 50 out of 70 sell. Take that same $5,000 commission. Well, there's $250,000 a month. That's $3 million a year. So there's basically, with this example, just from those 2 leads, there's $400,000 a month. Probably in your market. Now, let me share with you, I'm going to spend a few minutes on the FSBO and expired piece, and then I'm going to go into the other 10 different ways that your agents can generate listing appointments and focus on building inventory. In my opinion, there's 3 phases that agents need to learn about mastering FSBOs and expireds. The last and final phase is actually getting the listing. So, and let me just go through the first 2 and I can distinguish it better. See, calling the FSBO or expired and getting the appointment is a different skill set than actually going over there and having a conversation, them listing with you. So there's 2 different levels of mastery, but there is a third one that most agents, they quit at this one, and that's just making the call. Now, what I tell agents, and I'm going to use an analogy, gang, for you. And by the way, everything that I'm sharing with you, I'm sharing it in the hopes that you can, you'll take what I'm sharing and you can use this in your office meetings or in your coaching with your agents. And by the way, we're going to record this week. We know who's on the call. And by the way, I'm impressed with the number of people that are on the call based on the number of people that said they were coming. Usually a lot of people don't show up. So I'm very happy. I'm excited. Anyway, we're going to send you a recording of this so you can listen to it. Or even play it for your agents if you want. So if, let's say, believe it or not, I've ran a marathon. Those of you that are watching on the monitor probably don't believe it, but I have medals to prove it. And it wasn't easy for me. And I'm going to tell you something. I applied my real estate my real estate business to running marathons. I'm going to use the analogy here for you to use. See, people that run marathons, the final level of mastery for them is improving their time. They'll agonize over milliseconds, but the level before that is the distance. So some, runners start with a 5K, then a 10K, then, a half marathon, full marathon, then there's triathlons, right? So they build their distance. The last one is the time. But for me to run these marathons, my first level was just to wake up early in the morning and get dressed. If I had focused on my distance or my time, I would have quit before I started. So for me, how I created the miracle of running actually 4 marathons, my first one was I didn't focus on distance or time. I just focused on getting used to the ritual of waking up early, waking up early, getting dressed, doing the stretches, putting the music on. That was it. Now, after a couple of weeks of me getting up early, putting my outfit on, doing my stretches, then I said, well, I'm already up. I'm already dressed. I'm already stretched. I might as well at least walk a little bit. And then it was run a little bit and then finish the New York City Marathon. So my point here, gang, is your agents, part of why they don't call FSBOs and expireds is because they're looking at getting the listing, which is the last skill set. If you can help your agents just focus on, listen, don't worry about getting the listing. Don't even worry about getting the appointment. If you just get in the habit of making the calls, if you called 100 people in the next 2 weeks and you got 0 appointments, I guarantee you will be past the fear of making the calls. So break it down for your agents. Now, here's one other thing about a batting average. Let me show you this. This is really cool. This motivates the agents. I do this also in my training. And this is why I'm sharing it with you, because agents, it motivates them. Let's say I'm trying to squeeze a lot here, so I'm going fast because I want to open this up to questions, but I want to give you so much. So let's say the average commission for a listing sold is $5,000 in your market. And let's say 75% of the listings that an agent gets actually wind up selling. Well, if we take 75% of that 5,000, that means every listing that an agent gets is actually valued at $3,750. Let's go to the next level. Let's say that it takes an agent 10 listing appointments, which is really not good. But let's just say that they have to go on 10 listing appointments just to get that one listing. That means that every appointment they go on is actually worth $375. Now, if we break it down one more, how many phone calls does it take to get the one appointment? Well, let's say that agent's really bad. They're just starting off and they have to call 10 FSBOs. I told you my students, if they call 4, they're going to schedule 2. But let's say that there's absolutely no training. Oh, by the way, I'm going to also give you a gift. I'll tell you where to get my FSBO dialogue towards the end of the call. Let's say the agent makes 10 calls and gets 1 listing appointment. That means every phone call that they make is worth $37.50. Now, what's really great about this, and when I send you the webinar recording, maybe show this to the agents in your office. Say, listen, if you knew that I was going to pay you $37.50 every time you hung up the phone after talking to a FSBO, whether you got the appointment or not, if I gave you $37 every time you had a conversation, how many calls would you make this day, this week? And of course, the agent's like, I'd be calling like a mad person. Well, that's as scientific as you can get here because that's what's happening. So again, this batting average slide conversation is to motivate your agents to focus on that first step of mastery, which is just making the call. Okay, now, there's something I decided to give you as a gift. This company called RedX, a lot of you are probably familiar with it. They do this incredible service where they help agents actually find the FSBOs and expireds in the market. This is what the screenshot looks like when they sign up. This company scours the internet, local stuff. They go into the MLS of your board and they create this database looking thing. If you see it on the screen, that an agent, this becomes their database for prospecting, FSBOs and expireds. This is so important because it takes the stress off trying to find the leads. Now, this company, this is on the screen. There's a setup fee of $140 to $50, and then it's $360 a month. But we have an exclusive that I negotiated with them because I'm considered the FSBO expert, and I'm going to give this to you guys, the information. My students, on average, pay $150 a month. This is just for our power agents, but again, I'm giving this as another gift for you. The $150 setup fee, my students don't pay. They pay $0. So let me show you. And and the first 30 days are free. I forgot about that. So it's a real great package that my office negotiated for our students. There's the website, darrylspecial.com, and the promo code is SMILE. There's a couple of things. That promo code is actually all caps. So make sure you make a note of that. The next thing is, here's what I recommend you do is go to the website, darrylspecial.com, check it out, see if you think it'll help your agents. But really what it does is it gives the FSBOs and expireds on a silver platter to your agents. Now let's go through some of the other things that are in that chart. Hang on one second. I want to be able to see this. I see some of you, so hang on a second. My screen, a lot of you are asking questions. Julie, you're talking to these people, right?
Yep.
Okay, gang, I said I was going to reference or talk to, but I can't see it for some reason. So I see just like part of it. All right, so back on this. So first of all, we already talked about FSBOs. And by the way, here's a little something you can use with your agents. What does FSBO stand for? Yeah, for sale by owner. No, it stands for frustrated sellers batting zeros. I like that. Okay, Julie, you can laugh, by the way. It helps me know that I'm talking to somebody. Never mind. Expireds. So we talked about FSBOs. We talked about expireds. Here's another place, houses for rent, gang. This is the most underutilized category for agents. There's people that probably are part-time investors. They bought 1 or 2 properties. It's vacant. They're trying to rent it. This part-time investor usually, they're making a mortgage payment on their own home. They have a mortgage payment on the investment property. There's no revenue coming in. They're stressing financially. Because remember what we said, the number one key in any business is cash flow. That part-time investor is hurting right now with cash flow. So what you want to do is have your agents call these houses for rent and talk about the rental, just like they were interested in the rental. But then after they've talked to the homeowner, built some rapport, they do this question. By the way, Mr. Hanahana or Mrs. Hanahana, if I had a buyer who was interested, an investor who was actually interested in buying your property, would you, and the price that they pay you would make you smile, would you consider taking your house rental and actually selling it? And that's a great, there's sleeping listings in there. And these are, you have no the agents don't have competition because people aren't working them. Okay. Old FSBOs, old expireds. You know what? Let me see if I can go back to, no, I'm not going to because it's too many slides. But this Red X company, by the way, they have the FSBOs, they have the expireds, they have the houses of rent, they have several levels of things that agents can sign up for. The old FSBOs, old expireds, this is awesome because Red X gives this almost like free. Like when an agent signs up, let's say just with FSBOs and expireds, nothing else, as soon as they get their account, ladies and gentlemen, they log in with their username password, and Red X populates all the old FSBOs and expireds for the last 6 months, 180 days. Now, this is why this is powerful. You know, I'm telling you things that you already know. There's people that tried selling their house 6 months ago, but they weren't really committed, but they were thinking about, like they had some plans, like maybe they're relocating or something, but their time is of the essence hasn't happened yet. So they put it out on the market on a totally overpriced to say, well, if we sell it at this price, well, you know, we get lucky, we win lottery, we'll sell. It didn't work for them. So they take the house off the market. Here it is 6 months later. These people now are closer probably to the reason why they're thinking about moving anyway. Now they're more committed. They already recognize, they tested the waters about that ridiculous high price doesn't work. This is like, they're like fruit, they're ripe. And here's the best part. Because these people are not actively advertising now, nobody's working them, nobody's calling them. So if an agent calls FSBOs that tried 6 months ago, 5 months ago, whatever, there's a ton of business in your market from just those old FSBOs and expireds. Let's talk about neighborhood open houses. So we're going to switch. And you'll notice on the screen, I teach there's two types of or categories of leads. There's the now business, and then there's the future business. The now business, I've clarified it. The next stuff that I'm talking about is not going to get listings in the next 30 days, but maybe over the next 3 months. If any agent needs listings in the next 30 days, that right side of your screen, FSBOs expired, houses for an old FSBO, that's the best. And if they just focus on that, they'll probably make 6 figures in the next 12 months. But there are these other places to generate leads. Neighborhood open house, here's how that works. These are, we all know that when an agent gets a listing and they have a public open house, there's usually the nosy neighbors that come through and they make believe they're buyers. And so here are the agents wasting their time with people who are not being honest or forthcoming that they're really neighbors and they're just being nosy. Therefore, what my students do is before they do a public open house on a new listing, they have a neighborhood open house. They invite the neighbors to the open house. We've told agents now to not only do it for the neighbors, but to actually invite people in other parts of your town that are a different price range homes. So for example, let's say this agent got a listing and this would be, the price range would appeal to a buyer who's a move up buyer. They already had a home and now they want to buy a bigger home. In your market, there's a subdivision of first time buyer homes based on the size and the price of the homes. This would be the entry level into real estate. The agent could also invite that subdivision to this open house. And now let me show you what you do. I'm going to change the screen here. This is Office Max, okay? Office Max, and I just did a quick Google on this before the webinar just so I can show it to you. Office Max has these wedding invitations, this envelope with the nice foil that an agent could print out on their laser printer. Now, if you wanted to, you can also go to Michael's or Vistaprint and they'll print it for you. But here's the concept, gang. They would mail out to the neighbors a wedding invitation looking piece. And so it'll get people's attention. And when they open it up, it says, okay, you're invited. That's the front cover. You're invited. They say, oh, where am I invited to? You're invited to a neighborhood open house. And here's what the agent has to put in the invitation. Because the homeowners will not be home, they've asked me to do this open house, to manage it for them, to let the neighbors know they're selling. In case you know of anybody who'd be interested, come on by, check it out. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if an agent tells the neighbors to come to the house and the homeowners are not going to be home, you know that house is going to be slammed. Now, a couple of good things about this. Number one is when the agent does the normal open house, they're not going to be distracted with these fake buyers. So it gets that out of the way. That's number one. Number two, the agent, because they know these are neighbors, they're not really focused on promoting the home to the neighbors. They're focused on building a relationship. So as they're showing them the home, how long have you lived in the neighborhood? What do you like best about the neighborhood? Have you ever thought about moving? If you were going to move to, where would you move to? Do you know how much your house is worth? Why don't I do this? I don't mind. When I find the time when I can come over, take a look at your house and give you an updated market analysis. Every homeowner should have this done at least once a year. It's your most important asset. So if this agent has, let's say, 50 neighbors come to this open house, they're going to schedule 30 at a minimum listing appointments. Powerful, this one technique alone. So I love this. And here's the other thing, get your agents on the field of real estate. That's the neighborhood. Now, one last thing is, I have so much to teach you. I can't even cover everything. Never mind. I had something to say about the neighborhood open house, but I probably talk 10 minutes about that. Next thing is calling vendors. You know, there's a lot of people that we do business with. There's attorneys, there's title companies. Have the agents start building relationships with the vendors and have them get business from them, and of course give them business back. There's orphans. Now, from a broker management standpoint, listen, I don't have to tell you, there's nothing that burns us more than having a new listing come on the market with another real estate company, but the kicker is that homeowner, we sold them that house. It drives us crazy. This is why we have drinking problems. I'm just kidding. So here's what I recommend you do, right? Take all of the closed deals in your office. The agent who is involved in that transaction doesn't work at your company anymore. Take those are called orphans, give them to other agents in your office. Let the other agents call those people, introduce themselves, put them on their client base, start doing mailing, start working those orphans. You got hundreds of thousands of dollars probably of possible revenue in your closed files. Get them out and get these agents start working. When I talk to your agents on the webinar next week, I'm going to share with them some dialogue on how to call these people. I'm going to tell them about the neighborhood open house. Smile Stops. I've got to go a little bit quicker here, gang, because I'm running out of time and I want to ask questions. Smile Stops is something that my office, the reason why we call it Smile is we create the acronym at the top. You'll see it on the screen. These are basically having the agents stop by past clients or just a farm area where they're doing face-to-face. The idea is we're not there to sell. That's the S in the smile. We're there to serve people. We want to meet them face-to-face. Invite them to share what's important to them. Have a conversation by asking questions. Leave a token of gratitude and then elevate the relationship, meaning continue that relationship after that face-to-face meeting, stay in touch with those people. So, you know, we're starting to give agents smile stop ideas, things to drop by, you know, whether it's seeds or time, you know, cute little ideas. And we're putting this program together for your agents. And you know what, Julie, can we put this up as a bonus for the brokers too, this slide here? Or
Sure.
Yeah, let's do that. All right, let's stop. What's that?
I said we can add it. Okay,
good. So I just gave you another free thing, Terry, who said, I love free stuff. That's going to now go on there. All right, call friends. Listen, the agents have a whole list of people in their phones, their smartphones, that they haven't talked to in years, or they talk to every other month. That's another place that they can start calling out, checking on their friends, see how they're doing, let them know they're still in real estate. I don't have to tell you, agents always say, oh my gosh, one of my girlfriends that I went to school with, she just put her house on the market. Why didn't she call me? Because you didn't stay in touch, that's why. Whenever a new listing comes out, here's another thing. When a new listing comes out with another company, and if a second home on that block comes out, you and I both know it's almost always with a different real estate company. You would think that if a homeowner lists with ABC Realty, then their neighbor would list with ABC. But you and I both know that doesn't happen. Why? Here's why I believe it is because if the second homeowner listed with the same company as the first homeowner, then their neighbor would know their business. So the second homeowner will go out of their way to choose a different real estate company than their neighbor. So we tell agents whenever a competitor lists a new property, actually cold call that neighborhood, telling them that we expect a lot of buyer activity. And we go through the dialogue with your agents. I'm going to go through the dialogue next webinar next week. Past clients is another place. And of course, post the real estate videos. Now, I say, of course, that social media is becoming a big thing with, agents using Facebook Live and Instagram. And the most successful agents I've seen are the ones that are actually posting open house information, neighborhood information, business information. In other words, they're branding themselves as almost like a real estate reporter, if you will, by using videos. So we talk about that. All right, now, finishing this up, I'm going to just do this in 5 minutes because I want to open up the last 10 minutes. Julie, do we have questions for people? A lot or a little?
Just a little. Most of them had to do with how to contact the FSBOs and expires, and I think you covered that with Red X. We're gonna we can put that on the download page too, the link for Red X for everybody.
Okay, that's good. Good. All right, because I'm going to, gang, start writing your questions because I'm going to I want to leave the time, but if there isn't time for questions, then I'll just keep teaching. This over here, the killer listing conversation. One of the things that your agents have to feel good about is actually a structured conversation. If they feel good about a structured conversation, they're going to want to prospect. They're going to want to go on appointments. So I'm going to encourage you to look at what are you giving your agents on how to do a listing appointment. What are the visuals? What's the structure? And then I'm going to share a real secret with you that's going to help you with your agents. Here's the structure of the listing appointment. What we do is we use the word REAL as the acronym first to build rapport with the homeowner, engage the homeowner through questions to find out what they're committed to, then give them advice. This is where the agent would talk about how a homeowner can get their property sold through marketing, through the listings and through the MLS and the open house and all that stuff. And then there's list and leave and get the heck out of there before they change their mind. So this is the structure of how a listing appointment should go. Now, obviously, I don't have the time to go through each one of those 4 steps with you, but the point that I'm trying to share with you as a broker manager is if your agents don't feel confident in a listing conversation, if they don't feel confident about what they're going to say when they're on an appointment, it's going to impede them wanting to go out there and have listing conversations. So they're not going to prospect. So now, I'm going to switch. Because I can tell from the time, hang on one second. I'm going to switch to the most important thing here that I want to give you. Hang on, is this. The number one thing that I teach agents that they absolutely love, and I think I'm becoming known for this with agents, is how to do a listing appointment without memorized scripts. Memorized scripts, a problem with them is that agents get in their head about what to say, when to say it, and what should they say when the homeowner's done talking. In other words, the script becomes more of an anxiety for agents as opposed to a confidence level. So here's what we have taught, and that is stories, metaphors, and analogies. Now, what's really powerful about the concept of stories, metaphors, analogies is that it's not a memorized script. So I'm going to give you an example of this. You can take metaphors and analogies and put them into 2 categories. Then I'm going to demonstrate some that you can actually use on an appointment that you can share with your agents. And by the way, that shoe store would be an example of a metaphor or analogy. So one category is taking the objections of real estate. The other broker told me they can get a better price, lower commission, whatever, right? Then there's the marketing tools. When an agent talks about yard sign, MLS, lockbox, feature sheet. Now, I'm going to give you an example of one in each. So actually, I'm going to give you a little bit more. Let's take an objection, gang. Let's take that middle one there. It says, give us a couple of weeks because we have a lot of buyers. So let's say the homeowner says that. What does the agent say? Well, there's 2 techniques you'll see over there, analogies, Ethan Allen, Kelly Blue Book. Let me show you. If let's say you were going to go buy a couch, where would you go? You might go to a store, let's say Ethan Allen. Now, why would anybody buy now, by the way, when somebody goes to buy a couch at Ethan Allen, they know they're spending top dollar. And by the way, gang, I'm giving you a short version of this just because I want to make sure I finish on time with this webinar. When you go to Ethan Allen, you know you're paying top dollar. You know that it's a good quality couch. You know it's a company you can trust. In other words, you're getting what you pay for with Ethan Allen. You know it. Why would anybody buy a stinky used couch from eBay? Here's why. The whole business model of eBay is to get things at a discounted deal. Now you say to the homeowner, Mr. and Mrs. Hana, any buyer that walks into my office, they know they're paying top dollar. Why? Because every house I show them has a commission built into the asking price. And the buyers know this. But the buyers that come to our company committed to buying a house, they're not looking to steal a house. They want to buy from a good company, from a company they can trust. In other words, we attract the Ethan Allen buyers of real estate, whereas the for sale by owner attracts a different type of buyer like the eBay buyer. And here's something else too. I don't care. You can take anything in the US, and when somebody's trying to sell it on Craigslist, they're going to sell it for less money than if there's a business behind it. Let me give you, for instance, let's say and by the way, brokers and managers, I'm going to suggest that you do this with your own car. This is what I did with my car. I don't have this car anymore, but now I got this Navigator. I like the Escalade better. But anyway, when I had the 2010 Escalade, it was used at the time. And when you go to Kelley Blue Book and you type in the miles, the make, and all that stuff, it's going to give you two prices. You'll see on the screen, it says the dealership price was $37,157. Now, my same car, I typed the VIN number in, miles, make, the whole 9 yards. I said, Kelley Blue Book, tell me, how much is this car if I bought it privately? And here's what you'll find. The price was $33,500. In other words, that's a 10% difference for the exact same car. And part of the reason why that is I don't have to tell you as leaders, you understand this, that there is this concept of risk versus reward. The higher risk in something, the more reward for the buyer there has to be. So when you're buying directly from the consumer that owns the item, there's a lot more risk. What counteracts that is the price. They're going to get a better deal. So the FSBO is not saving the commission. They're not saving money. They're attracting different buyers than what we as real estate agents attract. And here's something else too. We don't just show properties. Let me show you this director's technique. Actually, that's not part of this one, but I'll give it to you real quick. If you look at this picture on the screen, gang, you've got all these people involved in putting together the transaction, this Broadway show. You've got the actors, you've got the set design, costume design, lighting design. What's interesting is in rehearsal every day, everybody speaks to one person. And the one person that's the glue that keeps it together is the director. If you try to put a show together without a director, it'll be a bomb. In a real estate transaction, you have the same thing. You've got all these different people involved: sellers, buyers, appraiser, engineer, title company, seller's attorney, perhaps depending on your market, buyer's attorney, again, depending on your market, home inspector, bank rep. Now, here's what's interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, the sellers, the homeowners would only talk to the buyers and maybe to their attorney if they have one. They wouldn't talk to the appraiser, wouldn't talk to the engineer, they wouldn't talk to the home inspector. My point is, if I went through all this, everyone is not talking to one another. There is only one person that everybody talks to in a real estate transaction, and that's us, the real estate agent. You trying to sell a house with a realtor is like trying to put a Broadway show together without a director. It's probably not going to be a good result. Therefore, there must be more behind the curtains that you're not aware of that goes involved in selling a property. So this is an example of these analogies, gang. So I still have time. Let me go over marketing tools. Let me go over a public open house, HGTV. For those of you that have seen this, sell this house, what they do is they have this open house. They have hidden cameras. They put into the house. The homeowner's watching the buyer's reaction. The buyers tear the house apart. The homeowner sees this, and then what do? They fix the corrections. They make the changes to the house. They do another open house, and it sells, right? Well, this is what you'd say to a homeowner: Mr. and Mrs. Hunter, our public open house is different than what you do. You see, when you have people coming through, they probably have told you nothing but complimentary things about your house because they want to respect you. You're the homeowner. They're not going to insult you. Now, when I do a public open house, because the buyers know I'm simply the realtor, they have no problem telling me exactly what they think about your house. I then take this very important marketing data, this very important marketing information, bring it to you so we can make whatever educated decisions about making changes if we decide to get this property sold. In other words, Mr. and Mrs. Hana, I'm like those hidden cameras in that television show, Sell This House. I'm going to hear things you're never going to hear. And that reason alone is why you need to work with a realtor. So now, gang, here's what I just want to show you. I'm going to go off my slide deck and let me just show you this over here. So I just did the Ethan Allen technique. I did the Kelly Blue Book technique, the director's technique, the HDTV technique. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 that any agent, once you give this to them, they'll be able to do it. Here's my point. That's the power of using metaphors and analogies versus using memorized scripts. Once an agent hears the metaphor, they're going to use their own words. They're going to feel more comfortable. Now you'll notice what I did here, because part of our training is that we go through, all right, here's the objections and here's the metaphors you need to use for those. This is how we teach our agents. Here's how to present MLS, broker's open house, broker's opinion sheet, public open house. So one of the things I'd recommend that you do to help your agents is maybe sit down with them, have an office meeting, brainstorm metaphors and analogies for all the marketing tools that your company has. Last thing is tell the agents to make sure that they use that. Can you hear that noise right now, Julie? That banging? That is the ice. Oh, you can? That's the ice that's falling off the house. That's how bad the snow is out here. Okay. So here's the last thing I'm going to share with you, gang, and I do want to open it up to questions, but let me just show you this, and then we still have 4 minutes. This Power Program, you may want to check it out. The website is The Power Program right there on the screen. This is what we do for our agents, our students that are power agents. And if you think this will help you manage your agents, just go to the site and check it out. I'm going to skip through. Oh, here's what I wanted to show you, gang. When the agents, I didn't put the slide in the right order. Hang on a second. One of the pages in the website is building listing inventory, and these are all links. You're going to see there with the arrows, expired dialogue, FSBO dialogue. This is the dialogue that our agents use to actually get better close ratios on the telephone. Let me just jump to something else. You guys are being wonderful. And and here we go. And then we'll see what question. Julie, do we have any questions?
Expireds versus cancellations, going after these within our own office. Is that good to go or no? Or
great question. Great question. So so let me make sure I got it. So when there's an expired, wait, you know what? Before I do that, Julie, let me just make sure I got these slides. This is one of our power. This is our power group with all this. This is what the power agents get, is a tremendous amount of stuff. All right, let me go back to that question. So the question is if it's an expired within the office or outside.
Not sure. It says expired versus cancellations, going after these within our own office. Good to go, or do we not go after these?
Well, if they're in your own office, I think the agent or the broker or somebody should try and get the homeowner relisted. If it's with another company, within the office, I think it should. The agent who is the original agent should get the listing. I will tell you that there's a couple of different answers on that. But I'm going to give you a more important answer to the question. There should be policies on things like this. Whenever there isn't written policies, that becomes a management nightmare. So what you really, if any of you do not have specific, like if this happens, here's how we handle it. If you don't have those rules and regs within your office, you need to create that. That will help the emotional ups and downs that happen sometimes with the backstabbing that does happen with people. So anyway, is there another question, Julie?
I believe it's when a seller tells you that if you have a buyer, bring them over. Do you do that?
No, I do not teach calling FSBO saying, I have a buyer, that's why I want to come see your home. I know that is an old technique, and I think people that have taught that is because they didn't know any other way to get in the door. How I teach the agents, because if you're calling saying, I like to come see your home because I have a buyer, there's a couple of problems with that. Number one is that you're working for a homeowner that hasn't committed to you, and there's an integrity issue. What about the clients that did list with your company? So I'm of the belief that no agent should be working and showing listings where that homeowner has not listed with a realtor. Number two is if you call because you have a buyer, then that means the appointment is not a listing appointment. It is a preview to show appointment, and that's just also a waste of time. So I show the agents that have my FSBO calls, they actually last a good 5 to 7, 8 minutes, because there's a whole process where you get past the anger, which is 60 seconds. Then there's rapport building, there's connection, there's commitment. You know, my approach to real estate is not to sell people, but to serve people. So we teach agents not how to close people, but how to coach people. So there's I'm a little bit of a woo-woo guy. It's really about serving people and not selling. And anyway, the agents that are our students love this approach. It's a lot more less stressful. Yeah. So another question, Julie.
That's it.
Okay.
Good.
Well, gang, I hope, I wish I could hear you so I can hear if you appreciated the webinar. What I will do is we'll send you a link to everything. The bonuses. I told you, wait, I told you where the website is. Let me give it to you again in case people called in late. Hang on. Where is it? If you go to this website, whoops, you'll get all the downloads. We're going to email you that other a bonus download, and I'll send you an email, maybe it's maybe a survey, so you can tell me, did we cover what you needed? Do you need us to cover something else? So we'll do another webinar and get your input. But you guys, thank you so much, and we're going to email you the recording. So go to that website. That's how we'll know how to get you all the other bonuses. And listen, thank you very much. Here's the last thing I'll say is that I tell agents that we don't just help people buy and sell real estate. We actually help them get to the next level in their life. And the money that they make is how many people's lives they've touched. So if we make it as brokers and managers more about the difference we're making in people's lives, people will work harder for that. And I appreciate and thank you for taking the time to be a better leader for your people by calling in on this call. And everybody stayed to the very end. So that was pretty awesome. God bless you, gang. Thank you. My name is Darryl Davis. Julie, thanks for helping manage this. Appreciate it. And I will talk to you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.